Hello, my name is Sammy. I'm 27 years old. I've been sober for a little over 2.5 years, and I enjoy trying to help others out and letting them know that they can also recover as well.
What the fuck is we doing?
I'm really into photography, and yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, cool. So my name's Kelli. So I've been sober for 6 years this August, and my life is unimaginably beautiful today that I could have never imagined my life being where it is. And so I work as a peer supporter at Outbase Treatment Center to encourage people and give them hope and share my lived experience on their path to recovery. So hopefully they can be successful. Yes, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm 39 years old.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I left out. I'm from Huntington Beach, California, and I guess I still technically am because I'm still kind of scheduled, a valet attendant, and that's kind of been my like get well job for the past 2.5 years. But I just recently accepted a full-time position at a marketing agency, and yesterday was my first day. So that was a little overwhelming, but we're here. We're here doing the deal, suiting up and showing up. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, we're living life today. Yeah, being
That's
a part
right.
of it.
Right, and
That's really awesome. Yeah.
'cause, we weren't employable back then.
No. Some people say they were able to function while they were using. I was never able to do that. I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't take care of my kids. I couldn't do anything, you know?
Yeah. I think for me in the beginning, I was able to like still do school, because I started fairly young, and those were like the fun years, right? When I was experimenting, and that's when I still thought I had it in control. Like, oh, it's not that big of a deal because this is part of growing up and all that. And then it was when I tried stopping and the grades started slipping and I stopped showing up to class and I started using all my money, for drugs. That's when it really started to be like, okay, this might be a problem, but I was still not willing to ask for help, nor I kept justifying, right? Like, I don't know if you experienced the same thing.
Yeah, I definitely did. For me, it started at a very young age, and I very quickly was like completely consumed by it. And so other people I knew were kind of doing the same things I was doing, but they were still like able to go to school, play sports, be a part of that world, where it like completely consumed me very, very quickly. But I justified for years. I was just having fun. I'm only hurting myself,
My favorite excuse was, it's my body. Why does everyone else care? Right?
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything wrong to them. And now do I realize how much pain and worry and sleepless nights I put like my family through. So
Yeah.
It's insane to be able to like look back and see how selfish I was being, especially when I would like leave treatment and just everything that comes along with it. But yeah, I think for me, because I was in and out of rehabs from 20, I think I went to my first rehab at like 2021, and that's when I was first introduced to a 12-step group. And I was able to complete the 45-day treatment center or treatment program, but I didn't go to sober living afterwards. I just went back home, and at that time my parents thought like, oh, send him off to rehab and he'll come back fixed.
Yeah.
Until they started seeing how it ended up playing out. And, I went to like multiple rehabs. I would leave a lot of them, like my second or third rehab, I left them like a couple times and ended up going back. But I think what changed this time around was I actually started to listen. I don't know if you have the same experience or if you first tried stayed sober.
No.
Or
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Right.
So we were actually just talking the other day. I was talking to somebody about the ripple effect, and how I don't really know why, like back then, like that, how we said, that I'm only hurting myself. It's my body. And like, now I see a different perspective of that, and just looking positive or negative, how everything affects everything. It's like I couldn't
Mhm.
see back then, um, but I went to my first rehab when I was 23, and was also introduced to a 12-step program. And I've been to multiple treatment centers, multiple times of incarceration. And I would do really good in treatment, with structure and somebody telling me what to do. And like, I did really good. And then like how you said, I would get out, I would go right back to my parents' house,
Mm.
which they were very supportive, and nobody used at my parents' house, but they also didn't understand it. And I would struggle so much with depression. When you first get sober, you got a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression going on, obstacles. And so I would kind of stay stuck in that and isolate, not ask for help, not really do what I was taught that can help me. And then eventually I just end up right back where I was.
Definitely. I
Mhm.
definitely related to you saying just going back to the parents, because
Yeah.
that was like my parents are so loving that it was
Yeah.
almost sometimes too much, and I felt weird and guilty saying, or kind of ashamed saying that my parents like love me too much, or they accept me, like trust me too soon, because then I'll
Mhm.
I'll run with that, and all of a sudden like one random day I'm like, okay, like they won't expect me to get loaded today,
Mhm.
so I'm off and running. And
Mhm.
yeah, it wasn't until my parents started really holding boundaries and not enabling me. Like I remember my first or second rehab, like we were taught what enabling was. And my
Mhm.
mom like, oh, oh, I'm playing a part too. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think it definitely comes down to us, right? Like
Mhm.
wanting to seek a different lifestyle. And I think what beautiful thing you brought up was the whole functioning addict. Like I
Mhm.
think so many people have different perspectives on that. It's like, why would I stop if I have a house and I have this
Mhm.
job? And but
Yeah.
some people are like dead inside, whether they're addicted
Mhm.
to drugs or not. Sometimes people are addicted to the material things, and then they end up finding out that they're just like like a midlife crisis, like what am I doing with myself?
Mhm. Yeah, just not happy. Yeah.
And another thing was the whole depression and anxiety when you
Mhm.
first get sober. I think that's what really smacked me like in the face.
Mhm.
And I think others will relate in the beginning of sobriety. They're like, I was like, I'm sober though. Like, why are things getting worse? Why am I feeling more like all of this? And that's where I would end up going back to what I was doing because I didn't like that feeling, right? Like I was spending most of my life numbing myself, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
I stopped using the drugs and alcohol, and I started getting more anxious. I started getting more sad. But I think it's sticking through from those days by
Yeah.
relying on others. That's my experience. That helped me stay sober along the way. Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that saying, right? Like it gets worse before it gets better.
Mhm.
I agree with that.
I mean, it's so uncomfortable. It really is. Like you said, we've been numbing ourselves for so long. So to even be in public or, talking to people, or it's just so uncomfortable, because we've been numb for so long. But I've learned like when I'm uncomfortable is really when I grow. And we've got to go through that, like to get to the other side of it. And there is a lot of people and resources that can help us, along the way. But what you said earlier about your almost feeling guilty about
Mhm.
saying that my parents love me too much, or I really can relate to that. Because I mean, my family they were great. They're great people. They love me a lot. They're very supportive, but it also wasn't good for me to keep going back there every time after I got out of treatment. You know, and that was hard to understand. Like it looks like a good place for me. you know. I
Mm.
mean, they're not using, they love me, they're supportive. But I really needed to be around other people that understood and had kind of got to the next phase of recovery to kind of be able to bring me with them, you know?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And I think that's important to note. Like, you can have like the best setup, right? Like the most loving parents,
Yeah.
great childhood. It doesn't mean you're safe from addiction.
Right.
And
No,
I
not at
think that's
all.
hard for sometimes people to understand, because sometimes I'll get comments on the TikTok and be like, "Where were the parents?" You
Mhm.
know? Oh, if only he would have had a good group of friends. It's like, like I had a good
Mhm.
group of friends. It was just more me seeking and trying to fill this, whether it was a void or it was just me wanting to experience and me being stubborn, right? And just being kind of
Yeah.
naive. I
Yeah.
truly believe I would have fell into it either way. Like,
Yeah. Me too. Me
like
too.
some people are like,
Yep.
oh, if only like things, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
Mm-mm.
you know what? The way I
Mm-mm.
was going, I think what was happening, like, but what's important is knowing that there's resources and utilizing them. Like, I get asked a lot, like, Sammy, like, how do I help out my boyfriend? How do I help out my loved one or my son? Like, you have to help them. And to me, it's like the help is there. It might not come from me, right? Because I'm human and I can't, like, I'm not gonna play this
Save the
whole,
world.
like, I can
Yeah.
save everyone, but the help is there. It's just whether that individual is willing to get to put themselves through that uncomfortability and
Mhm.
and stay sober through those really rough nights and let themselves be helped, right?
Yeah, it's really tough. I know. I remember my grandpa once. I was really bad at this point, and I went to his house to get $20. And he had tears streaming down his face, and he's like, "Tell me where to take you. Like, what doctor, what hospital? Like,
Mm.
where do I take you?" And I'm like, "Papa, there is nowhere to take me. Like, I've been to everywhere. It's me. It's me." Um, so it's really hard having a loved one struggle with this, but I do think there's like this recovery movement that's happening, right? I see it. I see a lot of people still struggling, and I know they want to be better, because I did. They don't want to continue to use and ruin their life, um, and I didn't either, but I kept doing it for another 10, 12 years,
Mhm.
because I wasn't willing to take the action that needed. I wanted it to be a magic thing that overnight it was, I wake up and I've got this place and I've got a job and but a job, a place, none of that ever fixed me. I've tried all those things. So, but yeah, there is a recovery movement happening. There totally is. There's also a lot of people struggling. So I always tell people to grab a hold of the people that are doing well, because right, we want to hang out with people that we want to be like, and those are the people that taught me how to live. I was in a halfway house. I'd got out of prison. I was in a halfway house. There was a lot of use going on in the halfway house. And, I remember staring up at the ceiling in my bunk, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I made up my mind that night, like, wherever these girls go, I'm going the opposite way, because I knew what
Nice.
was going to happen. And I got this little job at this little factory downtown, not making very much money, but I worked with some of the best people. And those are the people who, in the beginning, showed me how to live. They weren't using a substance every day to get up and go to work and take care of their families. And like, I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, how do these people do this? But I started watching them, how they carried themselves, how they talked, how they did things. And I just started watching more people from there. And I wanted what they had. I wanted a life like they had.
Um, I think for me, well, I know for me, it's the 12 steps. I've been able to grow and I'm where I'm at today because of the 12 steps, because I got a sponsor. I started listening to that sponsor. I actually started calling him and I'd ask him just like a lot of questions and he helped me through a lot. and just getting a home group, getting a commitment, right, from becoming the greeter to becoming the chip person, and all that stuff that goes along with the 12-step meetings. um but it was definitely asking for help and taking the advice and putting it into action. And what that looked like for me was something as simple as I'm in sober living, right? And my roommates are annoying me, or a roommate is relapsing, and talking about it with my sponsor, raising my hand and sharing about it at meetings, and getting suggestions, right? Like my sponsor's like, oh, like that person's annoying you. Um, you should ask them how their day is going. You should ask them if they want to go to a meeting with you. You should. He's like, oh, the sink is full of dishes. Wash them. Help them out. Someone's not doing their chore. Like, see kind of what's going on with them, and just kind of be of service, right? And that was like difficult for me to like comprehend and do, but I did it because I knew I didn't want to go back to doing what I was doing. Like if I have to wash some dishes and it'll help me, it'll be better to do that than to go back and pick up. And another example was I didn't get a job until I was like 3-4 months sober, because I was so scared of having money, because money was such like a trigger in the beginning. And I knew we broke it down and we kind of knew my cycle, right? It was like I'd get 30, 60, 90 days sober, kind of working the steps. I'd get that job, I'd get the car back, I'd get a girlfriend or have a girlfriend already, and I just go back, right? I get it. The first couple paychecks, I'm doing good, and then whoop, I'm gone. All the paychecks are gone too. So this time around, like I told him, like, hey, like I'm nervous about the money. He's like, oh, okay, you're nervous. So when you get your first paycheck, you're gonna deposit it, and then you're gonna transfer it all to your parents. Simple. And I'm like, okay, like that's how it was in the beginning for me. And then all of a sudden I'm in a meeting and my friend, I'm taking out $1 for the basket, and my friend goes, hey, when did you get comfortable with money? And that was like a aha moment. Like, I don't know, but like I am, because I started listening to my sponsor, and that was just kind of like, okay, man, like just keep voicing out how you're feeling, and see what kind of solution you can receive, and put that into action. So that's really been what's helped me, and helping out others, like not solely thinking of myself, has been a really, really um big factor in my recovery this time around. How
That's
about you,
awesome,
Kelly?
Sammy. Yeah, I can relate so much to everything you just said. But really, gosh, I credit a lot of different things to my success now. The multiple treatment centers that I've been in, even though I may have not, stayed sober, after I got out and stuff, like they still helped me and planted seeds in me. I definitely accredit the 12 steps. I was heavy in the 12 steps in the beginning. Now I do celebrate recovery. So it's kind of involved with the Bible and church with also 12 steps. So that's what I do now. So I credit a lot of things and a lot of people, but I think this time, the biggest thing for me was church and a relationship with God. Like that was the biggest changing factor for me. And I was just really, really desperate, for a different way of life. Like I was so tired. I was literally dying. Like I really was. And I think it's starting with those small things, like you were saying. I also gave my parents money for the first 3 years. Yeah. And so finally, one day I went to my mom, and for some reason I needed a card. We live in a day where we're using cards all the time now. For some reason I needed that. And so I went to my mom and I said, I had a few $1,000s, saved up. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to get my own bank account, and she took me to the bank and we put all that money in there, and I got a debit card, and because that was really hard for me too, but I think it was just the small things, and I really, looking back on it, maybe you call it fake it till you make it type thing. I just kept doing the next right thing. I didn't go around anybody that used. I didn't go in places where people were using. I did the next right thing in front of me. you know. And even I started doing little things too, like picking up trash, you know. I had so much guilt and remorse, you know, for what I had done to my family and my children and society, really. And so it made me feel a little better if I would see some trash and pick it up. Or, you know, at a grocery store, I put my cart back and then I go grab the cart that this guy left and I put his back too. You know, it just made me feel a little better, like that I was giving back to the world that I took from so much, you know. As I was, you know, just doing those steps, it finally got into habit over time. And then before you know it, I was getting my license back. I had my fines paid off. You know, I got a better job. You know, things just kept getting better and better as I overcame one thing at a time, you know. But in that, there was definitely those hard days and those hard moments, you know. And I have a few friends that I can call and hang on really tight to if I'm having a bad day or struggling, or, you know. So I credit those people a lot, you know, that showed me the way.
Congrats, Kelly. That's awesome. Awesome story. And I think that's like trusting the process, and because some people are like, what do you mean I'm going to have to give my money to my parents for 3 years? You know, it's like, where's your willingness? You know, like that just shows willingness and being patient and trusting in the process. But what's helped me was definitely going to a detox, going to the treatment center, residential afterwards, and then going to a sober living. And I had done that before, but it was also like Kelly was saying, it helped me out. All those rehabs that I went to in the past definitely helped me and gave me like a safe space and little time zone throughout my life, right? And as far as medication, yeah, it was like a medical detox. And then I was on naltrexone for a couple months, for like the first 2-3 months. And then also I think it was either Seroquel or trazodone to help me sleep in the beginning. But for me, yeah, I just talked with my doctor about it, right? I started getting too many weird dreams on the Seroquel and stuff, and I was like, maybe I should start running or exercising to like tire myself out, so then I can actually like try to sleep a little better. And I was just like talking with my doctor, right? And we were, you know, we both decided that it'd be okay if, you know, I got off the naltrexone and the Seroquel, and but it definitely helped me out in the beginning, the medical detox and those first couple months. So, but I think it's definitely important to say it looks different for everyone, because everyone's body chemistry is different. So I always suggest, when people are like, oh, Sammy, what do you think about subs, or what do you think about this and the Vivitrol shot? And I'm like, talk to your doctor, right? Take it as prescribed. Like if you start slipping, call yourself out on it and talk to your doctor about it, because I'm definitely not one.
Yeah. So, gosh, I've tried all different medications. You know, I was on methadone for quite a few years. But really, I was still taking Xanax because they were prescribed. So I thought that was okay. I was smoking marijuana, and, you know, they didn't test for weed. So there was that, you know. So I was able like to get a job, and my life did get a little bit better. But I was still doing these other things, and I wasn't making the changes I need to make. And, you know, of course, before too long, there I was right back again, you know. But I do think that, like, during that time, that I wasn't using street drugs that are, you know, are poison and have all these chemicals in them, you know. So even though I wasn't successful that time, I do think it helped me, you know. And then I've been on buprenorphine quite a few times. And sometimes I would have success for a little while. Sometimes I wouldn't, you know. I would start taking buprenorphine, Suboxone, and then I'd start dipping and dabbing with other things, right? So it just comes back to, like, addictions are a problem. It's not a substance. And I'm so thankful for medication. I'm pretty positive I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for medication, you know, and it can help us a lot, you know, but there's also work to be done. and making changes. And so I see people all the time, that are taking medication and their life isn't changing and they're still doing these other things, and still they're staying stuck. And then I see other people that are taking the medication and aren't going around people that using, aren't dipping and dabbing with other things. They're making changes, taking steps. They're getting to see their kids. They're finding jobs. Things are going really good for them. So, they call it medication assisted treatment for a reason. This medication, it's not a magic cure for us. It can help us, and it helped me a lot, but it's not a cure.
100%. I think that's an important thing to note was just using the medication thinking it's going to solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's not the reality. Like I remember my second or third rehab, I was so anxious and I couldn't stay in a rehab for like more than a week. So then I went and talked to a psychologist, and I'm just like in the chair just like talking. And all of a sudden I was like prescribed, I was taking up to like 10 pills a day, right? Like 3 in the morning or like 4 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and then 2 more at night. So it was like 8 or 10 pills, after a couple weeks of that, I was like not really good sleep. My nose started bleeding all the time. And so I talked to the doctor again and dropped it down to 5, and then from there dropped it even more. So that's because my experience was in the beginning when I was first getting sober, my first rehab, I was like, no, I don't need medication. I was like so against it, right? And then the things started happening where I couldn't stay in a rehab. I kept, going back out, relapsing, and I was like, maybe I should start looking into this whole medication thing. And so I started to become more open-minded about it. And then I don't know, what you said was like awesome. Just like the pros and cons, like how are you going about it, right? Like, and like I said, like I'm not a doctor and stuff, but it definitely can help. It's just being honest with yourself and with, another person about it. Cause I've definitely seen some things in treatment centers or just even like my own experience with medication. It could be like a slippery slope,
Yeah, and I think just like you said earlier about money being a trigger, I think medications can sometimes be a trigger too, and we haven't been the best rule followers, right? So, we've got this medication and, I'm going to take an extra one, or I'm going to sell a couple here so I can get cigarettes, or I'm going to, and that's still keeping yourself in this lifestyle, you're not taking your medication right. You're not doing the right things with it. You're right. And those are some of the things that I see people struggle with, and I struggled with, So it could even be, Mom, you got to keep my money and you got to give me my meds every day. Like, maybe you might need that,
Right. I think it's for people like listening to this and stuff, I think in the beginning for me, it was difficult to understand and think like, am I going to have to talk and call someone every single time I have to make a decision? It's like, sometimes, especially in the beginning, maybe like, it's probably looking like that. Cause like my best thinking got me into rehabs, drunk tanks, and hospitals right close to death, but it's not always going to be like that. And I think that's important for people to know, cause it's not like I'm waking up in the morning and having to call my sponsor to ask him like, what am I going to eat this morning? Right.
Yeah.
I know in the beginning it was maybe like that, but the important thing is like, it won't always be like that. It's just important to build a foundation and getting used to picking up that phone. Because if I isolate, that's not good. I get stuck in my head. Right. And that drink or that drug starts to become more appealing. And so like you said, surround yourself with people that are doing the deal, phone numbers, right? Utilizing the phone numbers, and hobbies are big for me. Like I think this time around is what really helped me out. Like, of course, the 12 steps definitely, but also being able to have hobbies and go out and explore. for me, that's photography has been huge, right? It goes like hand in hand with like going on an adventure, taking some photos, coming back, editing them, and it's just like that's what I enjoy doing. I learned how to surf in my sobriety. I'm still like a beginner, right? But it's still like something that it was new to me. And growing up in Huntington Beach, right? It's like you'd think I'd surf, but I didn't until my sobriety. And I think it really helped me. Like the first time I got up on a wave, the amount of dopamine that just rushed through my body, I was like, oh my gosh, like we can get those high feelings just out of life. And I think
Yeah.
in the beginning, it's not like that. I remember my rehab taking me to
Yeah.
Boomers to go play mini golf. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't want to be here, and then I go to Boomers like a year and a half later and I'm like having fun with my family. I think that's like a big thing to note. It's like in the beginning, not much is going to really release dopamine because we were using fake dopamine for so long, but it's sticking through it and continue to find kind of what works for you or what gives you that like dopamine to be able to experience like the gifts of sobriety and be like, oh, I actually do enjoy this, right? So
Yeah, that is beautiful, Sammy, what you just said, because it's so true, and I have found that exercise is a great one, to get dopamine. And that's why I always say, like, I don't really exercise like is for health, it's really for my brain, and I like to craft, so I like to make things and do art stuff. And, sometimes I can get in my head and overthink everything, but when I'm crafting, like, I don't think about any of that. I'm just focused on what I'm doing. It's serene and relaxing and, just to de-stress. And so I think that's really cool that you said that, because that's important for us to find those things. When I was using and I first got sober, I didn't know what I liked, what I didn't like, what my favorite color was. Like, I didn't know. I used for 18 years, I didn't remember life before using, so finding those things and finding out what my favorite color is, and hey, I do like this food. And, it was like a whole new world type thing, and it's beautiful. Yeah. But finding those things that work for you, that are going to be able to help you on this journey. Yeah. I guess right off the top of my head is the medication is changing one for another. I definitely don't think that just from my own experience, this, like you said, it was very hard to stay at rehab sometimes. You'd want to leave the first couple days, so for me, medication was something to help me shut my brain up a little bit, I guess, while I work to make these changes, so I know, sometimes addiction's hard to understand, so sometimes for our families and they see us going to a treatment center and taking this medication, it's like, why are you taking that now? You're just trading that one for that one. And I don't believe that's what it is from my own experience. So that would probably be my biggest one. What do you think?
That's a great one. And for me, it's once you get sober, your life gets boring.
No.
Come on now.
No. No way.
Come on now. I'm literally like living life today. And in the beginning, it felt like it was a death sentence, right? Getting sober, because it's like a transition to like a new way of life that I'm not used to and that I was kind of avoiding because I was scared of responsibility. I was scared of life itself. But sticking through those hard times and staying sober, you start to realize that you literally put down the drink and the drug. You started working on yourself, and all of a sudden you're able to experience these new life situations that like honestly I used to not care about, right? I got to a point, right, in the beginning I didn't think this way, but I got to a point in my active addiction where I was like, yo, I don't care about my family. I don't care about wanting to own a house and have a car that's paid off. I don't care about any of that. Like, what do you mean? Like, whatever, right? And like I got sober and I've stayed sober, and now I actually do cherish those things. Like, I do want to be able to own a house one day. I am able to see my nephew and niece grow up, right? Like my brother used to be like, Sammy, like, you better get your life together. Like Aiden's on his way. And you know, once he's born and you're still doing your thing, you're not going to be able to be a part of his life. And to him, to my brother, I was like, oh, I know, like I should. And in the back of my mind, I was like, yo, I don't care. Like better off for me if like I'm not a part of his life. It'll be better for both of us. And like now, like today, it's like, oh my gosh, that little kid, like he's he's super chaotic and crazy, but like it's so much fun to be able to see him learn his colors and just to see how he acts and you know his energy. It's like, oh my gosh, like I'd be missing out on this, right? Where I thought I didn't care about these things, and as I stay sober, I start realizing how much I actually do like want to be a part of life today. So
yeah, that's awesome. I was just thinking of how you know, you said you think it's not going to be fun, you know, and I guess I thought that too. But I was just so miserable, you know, like I mean, it didn't matter how much I used or how much I had or what was going on. Like I was still miserable, you know, like I don't know how it could have got any more miserable, you know, and even though, you know, yes, it's uncomfortable and yes, you're going to have to learn new things and form new habits and meet new people and all that. But like if I could have showed myself what it looks like on the other side of things, like I would have done this a long time ago. You know, I really would have. For some reason, like I just couldn't see past those hard moments in the beginning and, you know, that depression and that uncomfortability and, you know, but if I could see what my life would look like and how beautiful it was, I would have done this a long time ago because it is beyond my wildest dreams. I did not know life looked like this. I really didn't. You know, being able to lay your head on the pillow at night, like, I did okay today. You know, I paid my bills. I was a good role model for my kids. You know, me and my mom have become friends, which I never would have imagined would happen. I was very rebellious from a very young age. And she, Lord knows she tried, you know, but I, you know, we always fought. And so we're friends now. Like she's the first person I call for everything, you know? So recovery is definitely fun, beautiful, all the amazing things you can imagine. And it's worth it to go through that beginning part that can be hard.
that's awesome. Yeah, rebuilding relationships is huge. And I think, I don't know if this is a myth, but I know this is what a lot of people think about. It's like, oh, like it works for them, but it's not going to work for me. Right. Sobriety is not possible for me because of how far gone I am. It's like you'd be surprised at the kind of stories that, you know, people have been able to turn their life around and the typical where someone's like, if I can get sober, you can too. Like as much as I used to cringe at when people would say that, it's so true, right? True. Like, because we're not special people. Like we're not sober because we're special and you know, it's because we decided to put in the work and decided to try something different. Right. And it was hard. Like, that's why I think I'm pretty sure I can speak for both of us, why we hold our sobriety so near and dear to our heart and why we're just like so proud of it, because it's taken work and it continues to take work. And yeah, it's definitely hard, but I wasn't able to do this by myself. And it wasn't until I started relying on others and letting people in on what was going on in my head and how I was feeling. And putting in the action that my life started to change, and I started to get like little glimpse of hope and little glimpses of dopamine and just so I think that's one of the big things that I think people should take away if they're like listening to this or they come across it. It's like this is available for you too. No one's like limited. It's not like we'll let you in and we will let you out. It's like no, like everyone, come on in, come get you some sobriety and get your own experience. It's really hard asking for help. You know, I don't know why I've struggled with that for so long. I can still struggle with it today. You know, I guess it's just,
having to admit that you don't have it all figured out or that you need somebody else. I'm not sure why that has been such a hard thing for me. But I know once I started doing it, that people wanted to help me. They really did. And that helped make it easier,
Yeah. So I feel like we should talk about like resources, because I don't think everyone or a lot of people know how many different resources. Like you said, like you started doing the 12 steps and then you went over to Celebrate Recovery, which is amazing. Like I host all recovery meetings, and it's not like 12 steps specific group, but it's we talk about sobriety, right? And the 12 steps are most likely talked upon because some of us are working the 12 steps, but I don't think people realize that there's like Dharma recovery, Celebrate recovery, Smart recovery, and then there's like specific to your like drug of choice meetings, right? Like AA, NA, HA, CMA. Like there's just so many resources. And I think me personally, I didn't think it worked for me, but because I didn't continue going. I just like go to a couple of meetings like, it's not for me. But like I didn't continue trying something different. It's like the resources are there. It's more about trying to find which tribe you're a part of, kind of, right? Like what works for you.
Yeah, and we have we have more and more sober livings are coming all the time. And we even have places that will help cover the cost for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks while you're, getting acclimated to the place and starting to look for work. We can help get bus passes. Through your insurance company, they'll give you transportation to treatment. I think through this epidemic, there has been a lot of good stuff come from it, and so there's so much out there. Whatever you need is out there, and reaching out to somebody that may know, or I know here you can call 211 is like the information number. And just say what you're looking for, and they can lead you in the right direction if that's all you've got, but there's a lot of things out there. Yeah, you just have to seek it out and actually take a step in that direction,
Right. I remember I was on Facebook and I was in my active addiction and I knew someone was sober, and I messaged that person, hey, which rehab should I go to? He ends up messaging me, anyone, just go. He was so sick of me just like trying to find, like kind of asking for help and not really. He's like, dude, honestly, like just go to one, like you need it type thing. And I was just like, yeah. And whether you have insurance or not, like it's possible. And I love what BrightView is doing, right? Like how you guys accept like Medi-Cal and stuff. And it's like, some people don't even, it's not that they don't believe it, but they don't even know that, and it's just like a simple phone call and doing a little bit of digging. And honestly, having technology today, having Google, having Zoom has made it so much easier to seek help versus back in the day, right? Because it was hospitals, sanitariums, asylums, and now we literally, this is our hospital right here. Like we'll literally just like Google search and you'll be able to find some resources. So
yeah, I would have to go to the hospital and say that I was going to kill myself to get help, back then. So I know we've come a long way, and I was reminded of early on, maybe a year or so in, I had a girl that I grew up with that I had known for years. And she looked at me and she said, oh my gosh, I never thought you would make it out of that lifestyle. Like, I wasn't really sure whether like to laugh or what, but I know there was people that felt that way, thought that about me, like this girl will never change. I thought that about me, Right. And so, all those things, if I can do it, you can do it, all those things that I thought were cheesy and really didn't mean anything, they're all true. They really are, and I know if somebody like me can do it, anybody can.
Exactly. And I think that's where people like don't get discouraged, right? If you fall, get back up type thing. It's like, it's like because a lot of people get discouraged when they end up going back out and they're like, oh, sobriety is not for me. I only lasted 30 days. I only lasted a week. I can't get more than 2-3 days. It's like, okay, so what should we do differently, right? What's been working? What hasn't been working? What are you doing? What can you do more? What needs to change a little bit in that solution to continue staying sober? And that's a process and journey in itself, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. Sobriety and recovery doesn't look like this.
No.
To me, it's like ups and downs and ups and so I think that's definitely like the reality of thing. But since we're such like instant gratification people, it's difficult for us to stay in those difficult times, but it's definitely possible to stick through it. So
yeah, we want everything to happen right now, and recovery just doesn't work that way. It's a process. It's a beautiful process, and recently I pulled in the driveway and, I had one of those aha moments. They happen occasionally. And I was looking at the sunshine and I was just thinking about how I'm able to feel today, and for so long, I was not able to do that. And so, even though the process can be hard, the process is beautiful, and so I'm learning to love the process that I'm in,
Love it. That's one of the main thing that has gone through my mind or goes through my mind on a day-to-day basis is trust the process. Like there's some days where I'm just like, Sammy, just trust the process, man. Like my sponsor would always tell me, Sammy, you're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that used to make me so mad. I'm like, what do you mean?
I'm not where I want to be.
Yeah, exactly. And but it's so true. It's so true, right? And it's just continue to put in the work. I love the saying where it's like put in the work and the results will follow. Right? It's not up to us when those results will show or when they will come, but if you continue putting in the work, they will. Right?
We continue to do the next right thing and the next right thing and don't pick up, things will get better. I know that for sure. If I don't know nothing else, I know that for sure.
So any additional tips would be, I don't know, it's like a monkey see, monkey do program, right? In the beginning, like if you had talked to me in the beginning of my sobriety, I definitely wouldn't be acting this way about it. I was definitely not, I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to do this, but it's definitely better on this end, right? And it's worth it. So my suggestion is just connect with other sober, like-minded people and stick with the ones that are actually doing the deal and look at the solution rather than the problem. And just trust the process, honestly. Trust the process, voice how you're feeling, write all that stuff down. Like even journaling is a process in itself, and it's definitely relieving. Exercising's huge. New hobbies.
Yeah, I would say, if you're thinking about trying recovery, and I would say don't wait. Don't wait. There is a recovery movement happening. It's amazing and it's so much fun. And we need you on this side of things with us, and if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too, but don't wait any longer. Find a treatment center, get involved in your recovery community. There's one everywhere. Find a church, go to a sober living, start taking some action. Don't wait any longer.
Right. It's not about trying, it's about doing.
Yeah. The recovery is an action word,
True. And, I don't know. So if you wanted to reach out to me or something, like I have my little TikTok thing, Sober Sammy or Sober Comedy. There's also YouTube or on my Instagram, it's just Sober Sammy with a couple Y's, like 2 Y's or something like that. But the beautiful thing is there's so many people like us that are willing to help. You will be surprised at wherever you're from, wherever you're listening to this, from wherever you are, there's people near your area that are willing and are wanting for someone to come up to me and be like, hey, I need help with this whole sobriety thing. You'd be surprised at how many people are willing to help. So it's about putting yourself in positions where you can be helped. So for me, that looks like a 12-step meetings. And yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook. It's Kelli Marie. I will give my phone number if you want me to. I'm totally fine with that. I work at BrightView in Coleraine, Cincinnati, Ohio. But like Sammy said, wherever you're at, there's treatment centers, there's people willing to help you. There's meetings going on, there's church meetings going on, there's whatever you're looking for. It's out there, so go find something.
I think it's a beautiful thing how we can just hop on a call. Like I've never met Kelli before, even like before this.
Yes.
And here we are just like talking about our experience and like relating to one another. And I think that's another important thing is you'll be surprised at who you connect with. Like the friends that I have today look like completely different from what my mind imagined, right? There's like 60-year-old like woman that like I like relate with and has helped me grow. And so it just like ranges of everything. And just like how addiction doesn't like discriminate, right? It's the same thing with like recovery. So you'll be surprised at who you end up relating and who ends up helping you out. So
yeah, and just because we get sober, we still speak that language, and I think that's why, I love talking with people in recovery. I could do it every day. Well, I do, but we just automatically connect, because we speak this language, and we have empathy for one another on knowing what each other's gone through, even if it may not have been the same substance or exactly the same pathway. We just relate so much. So find you some recovery people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Great note to end on.
Yeah.
At BrightView, we treat you like a person and addiction like a disease.